So yesterday, me and Aaron Archer were recording a brand new segment, and the conversation came up about toys that were planned that ended up never happening. And we fell into a big conversation about the DC toy lines and stuff like that. And it started to get me thinking about a lot of stuff that happened in that era and even much later in the 2000s of stuff that was trademarked or you could see the trademarks and it was going to happen, and big questions of stuff that was obviously kind of money on the table but ultimately didn't happen in the end. And I was going through a lot of them and trying to decide which one would make a really good kind of story time here on the podcast. And one that I found, which was really interesting, is how did we never get a repaint of the Titan class, our very first Titan class of Metroplex into Metrotitan? Because there was plans, and we'll get into that. And it all has to do with a little failed Transformer line called Bot Shots, if anyone remembers those back in 2012. Now, essentially what happened is there was a line called Bot Shots, and it was created by Hasbro. It kind of was Hasbro's answer to many trends that were going on within the toy world at the time. Hasbro has been very much known for taking the Transformer brand and always adapting it into whatever were the trends going on within the boys' toy lines. So whether it be, Ninja Turtles is really popular and mutants and that kind of stuff. And that's kind of what the Pretenders were in 88 and 89 when Turtles debuted in 87. And then Micro Machines is really hot and that's doing really well for Galoob. And we got Micro Masters and, oh wow, Lego's doing really well. And then Creo happened. But a lot of times also with these lines, they're very good dumping grounds for trademarks because you're going to be retreading a lot of those classic characters, and you could also use it as a way to either re-trademark or refresh a trademark for something that could be used in the future. And Bot Shots was no different. Bot Shots was perfect for, hey, we haven't done an Ironhide toy in a while, let's do an Ironhide here, or we got to keep that Mirage trademark, or Prowl, or even some of the more weird ones like Lockdown and Galvatron, let's say. Especially at a time where you weren't seeing those toys all the time, so it was a good place to kind of place that. And Bot Shots, unfortunately, despite the fact that it was trying to be one of these lines to compete with, at the time, Trendmaster's Bakugan, it didn't find success. And within a year and a half of its debut, quietly was discontinued, ended up in all the clearance and discount stores in mass, and that was the end of that. But there was a lot of plans in terms of what were going to be characters in this line. All the trademarks were essentially issued very early when this line was created, except for stuff that was going to be happening in year 2.5, which ended up never coming to be. And we have the listings from different stores and stuff of what would have been, and these were trademarks that ultimately never got issued by Hasbro, except for one of them. And we'll get into that. So again, 2012, the line came out. It didn't do well, and that was that. 2013, they did the last remnants of the line. And, the flip shots, the jump shots, they did all the little gimmicky kind of ones. And then it disappeared. And that was the end of that. At Toy Fair 2013, they were showing off what was going to be probably the last of the bot shots, but ultimately, in the end, none of those ended up coming out, and that's the infamous Rom the Space Knight one. But Rom the Space Knight was one of many, and we saw through Walmart listings that Rom the Space Knight wave would have been called the Stunt and Speed collection from Bot Shots, and it would have had Bumblebee, it would have had Galvatron, it would have had a Dinobot 3-pack, which probably would have been used to bring some Dinobot trademarks up to speed. Of course, we would see them in other areas, but that would have been a good dumping ground for it. There was a Ring of Fire battle pack that was planned, which we don't know which characters would have been contained in that, but probably would have also been some trademark savers. But the two big ones here, more than anything else, was, and this was in 2000, these listings were clearly planned for 2014 release, but these were listings that were planned in 2013, even as early as 2012, Metrotitan and Metroplex. And this was a big deal because up to that point, Metroplex wasn't seeing a lot of action as a toy. He had his original trademark in 1986 in the West, and then nothing. And then it was re-trademarked years later in 2002 for the 2003 Heroes of Cybertron PVC line, which was what the SCF PVC line was imported from Japan. It was that Build-A-Figure Metroplex for the Heroes of Cybertron line. And then during that same span of 4 years between 2012 and 2006, in 2005, we had the Cybertron Metroplex. And then that expired. And there was nothing for a very long time. And then we get to this here, and they go, okay, we're going to trademark at some point Metroplex and Metrotitan, sure. But then the whole line got canceled. And ultimately, in the end, both Metroplex and Metrotitan as trademarks were not needed and thus were never registered. Of course, we all know how this story ends. Ultimately, in the end, there was going to be a Metroplex toy the following year with the Titan Class. And the Rom the Space Knight was also trademarked because IDW was going to be doing a comic book at the time based on Rom the Space Knight, which they announced in 2014. But what about that Metrotitan? Well, primarily because that bot shot never happened, they never registered the trademark. And considering that we were going to get the first ever Titan, and they didn't really know how that was going to succeed or what platform it would come out with, and, you know, Toys R Us was kind of on the rocks at that point. They weren't gone yet, but, you know, it was going to be a weird thing. There was no reason to register a Metrotitan if there was nowhere to put it. Because if it would have been, and honestly, if that bot shot would have happened, then they would have had that trademark. They would have released the bot shot, and then they would have had the confidence probably to then do the Metrotitan instead of registering a trademark and having nothing to put it on, which is always a very dangerous move in the toy world because it leads to fines and all kinds of stuff from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. So imagine, in a lot of ways, because a bot shot toy didn't get released, we didn't get a Titan Class Metrotitan in the domino effect of things. Kind of crazy when you think about it. Now, how would that bot shot would have looked? Well, I mean, judging on the Rom the Space Knight, where it was just a new sculpted head, but using the same kind of base bodies that a lot of the bot shots use. Like, there's like 5 bot shot molds, and they're all repaints of each other's, and some of them have like new head sculpts, but it's still kind of the same alt modes and bodies and transformations. I'm taking a guess they maybe would have taken that shockwave mold that turns into a tank, and they could have like superimposed, it's the Scamper kind of look, but you know, now it's, you know, it transforms into Metroplex. I could kind of see it like that. You know, that's one way to kind of look at it. But at the end of the day, it didn't happen, and unfortunately, we never ended up with a Metrotitan Titan Class. And the future of a new Metroplex is the Titan Class in a lot of ways, well, with Transformers Legacy coming up as of the recording of this video, supposedly we're getting a Cybertron, as in the Galaxy Force version, Gigalonia or Giant Planet Metroplex. So chances of that getting a Metrotitan repaint, I don't know. We'll have to see how it looks, and maybe if they do a crazy retooling. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time. I mean, we got Fort Max out of Metroplex, so crazy retooling is in the DNA to do some stuff if needed. But still no Metrotitan after all these years. After all these years, just that original release. No PVCs, no masterpieces, no little merchandise, just that original release. Imagine. And it would have started all over again if we just would have got a little silly bot shot toy. So I hope that was an interesting little story. But it really shows that sometimes these lines, Creo was the same thing. Creo existed to keep those trademarks. We would imagine Creo Combiners came out 1.5 years before we got Combiner Wars. And the whole point of Creo Combiners was to trademark all of those limbs, all of those combiner limbs, all of those combiner pieces, all of those combiner mode names, Menasor, Computron, everything like that. And that's kind of how the business of it works, and it's fascinating sometimes. But hopefully we'll get a Metrotitan one day, get some Transformer Zone love in the West, but that's for another story. So I hope you learned something today, and I hope we'll all talk again really, really soon.